Standing in the middle of the Whole Foods on Michigan Avenue, in her designer coat and her perfect highlighted hair, my ex-wife Celine looked me up and down like I was a stranger who had asked her for change, like I was something she had stepped over on her way to the organic produce section. And then she said the words that I will remember for the rest of my life. "I'd genuinely love to see your little workplace, Archer. I'm sure it's very quaint." She said quaint the way people say it when they mean pathetic. She said little the way people say it when they mean yours. What Celine did not know, what nobody in that store knew, including the man she was clinging to, the man she had left me for, was that 3 floors above us, in a glass tower that overlooked Lake Michigan, my name was on the building. Not the company name, not a partnership. My name. In steel letters above the entrance of a company that had just been valued at $2.4 billion. But I didn't tell her that, not yet, because I had waited 4 years for this moment, and I was not going to rush it. Before we go any further, if this story is the kind of thing that keeps you up at night in the best possible way, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now, because we put out stories just like this every single week. Drop a comment below telling me what you thought Archer should have done right there in that grocery store. And if you know someone who needs to hear that the people who counted them out are always the first ones shocked when the count changes, share this with them right now. Okay, let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Archer Bellamy. I grew up in Naperville, Illinois, the kind of suburb where the houses all look the same, and everyone's dad works in finance or insurance and nobody talks about money because everyone secretly worries about it. My father was a high school history teacher. My mother worked part-time at a dental office on Route 59. We were comfortable, not wealthy. We drove Hondas. We vacationed in Wisconsin. I went to University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign on a partial scholarship, studied computer science, and graduated with exactly 11 job rejections before I landed my first position as a junior software developer at a mid-sized logistics firm in Schaumburg. The salary was $54,000 a year. I thought I had made it. I was 23 years old, and I thought I had made it. That was the version of me that Celine Voss met at a friend's birthday dinner in Lincoln Park when we were both 26. She was doing event coordination for luxury brands downtown, and she had this way of moving through a room like she had already decided she belonged there. She was beautiful in that kind of effortless, curated way, the kind of woman who seemed to have been designed for exactly the environment she was in. She laughed at my jokes. She texted me first. She told me on our 4th date that she liked how grounded I was. Looking back, I think what she actually meant was, "You're safe. You're predictable. You won't surprise me." She was right about 2 of those 3 things. We got married in September, 3 years after we met, at a venue in the West Loop that cost more than I made in 6 months. Her parents helped pay for it. My parents cried at the ceremony. My mother told me afterward that she had never seen me look so happy. I was happy. I want to be honest about that. The first 3 years were genuinely good. We had an apartment in Lakeview. I had moved up at the firm, gotten promoted twice, was now making close to $90,000. Celine's event business was growing. We had friends over on weekends. We talked about buying a house in Evanston. We talked about having kids. But then something shifted. And the thing about shifts is that they're almost impossible to name while they're happening. You only recognize them afterward, when you're looking back at the topography of a life and you can see exactly where the ground changed elevation. Celine started going to more industry events, more networking dinners. She started talking about a man named Preston Hale, a commercial real estate developer who had become one of her firm's biggest clients. She mentioned him casually at first, the way you mention a colleague, then more frequently. Then in ways that carried a warmth I had started to notice was no longer directed at me. I didn't confront her about it because I wasn't sure I was reading it right. I told myself I was insecure. I told myself I was tired from work. I told myself that the distance I felt was something both of us were responsible for, not just her. That's what you tell yourself when you're not ready to know the truth. The truth arrived on a Wednesday evening in October, 4 years into our marriage. I came home from a long day to find Celine sitting at the kitchen table with her hands folded in front of her, like she was about to chair a meeting. There were no tears. There was no trembling voice. She looked at me with that composed, executive expression I had seen her use with difficult clients, and she said, I think we both know this isn't working anymore. I want a divorce. I sat down across from her. Are you seeing someone? She didn't flinch. That's not the relevant question right now. It was the most honest, dishonest thing she had ever said to me. The divorce took 8 months. She had a better lawyer. I let more go than I should have because I was too tired and too wrecked to fight over furniture and savings accounts. I walked away with my car, my clothes, my laptop, and about $19,000 in a checking account that felt like a final humiliating grade on 4 years of my life. I moved into a one-bedroom apartment in Logan Square. It had a radiator that clanged and a window that looked directly into the brick wall of the building next door. I ate a lot of cereal. I watched a lot of television. I told my parents I was fine when they called, which was twice a week, because my mother had a radar for despair that no amount of steady voice could fool. My closest friend from college, a guy named Reed Caldwell who had started a small software consultancy in River North, called me 3 weeks after I moved in and said, "I need a technical co-founder. I can't pay you what you're making, but I think this is something." "What's something?" I asked. "A platform that connects supply chain logistics to real-time freight optimization. The market's wide open. Everyone's doing it wrong." I was 31 years old, recently divorced, living in a Logan Square apartment with a malfunctioning radiator, and someone was offering me a smaller paycheck and an enormous risk. I said yes before he finished the sentence. I am not going to pretend that what came next was easy. It was not easy. There were months where Reed and I didn't take salaries. There were nights I fell asleep at my desk in our first office, a shared co-working space on West Randolph Street, cheek pressed against a keyboard. There was a February where our biggest early investor called to pull his funding, and Reed and I sat in silence for 45 seconds before one of us said, "Okay, what do we do next?" That's the version of entrepreneurship they don't make movies about. The long stretch of ordinary terror between the beginning and the outcome. But the outcome happened. It happened slowly, and then, like everything, all at once. Our platform, we called it Vantage, caught traction in the cold chain logistics sector first. We landed a contract with a mid-size pharmaceutical distributor in Indianapolis, then another in Memphis. Then a freight forwarding company out of Houston came to us, and that contract was worth more than everything we had built in the previous 18 months combined. By year 2, we had 22 employees. By year 3, 47. By year 4, we had raised a Series B round of $70 million, moved our headquarters into 14,000 square feet on the 31st floor of a building on North Wacker Drive, and the Wall Street Journal had run a piece on us with the headline, "The Quiet Giant Reshaping American Freight." I was not quoted by name in that article. I have always preferred to let the work speak. My executive assistant, Danielle Morse, framed the article and hung it in the lobby the morning it ran. She took it down 3 weeks later per my request and replaced it with a photograph of the Chicago skyline at dusk, which I liked better. I need to tell you about the morning I ran into Celine before I tell you about the morning I ran into Celine, because what happened the first time informed everything about how I handled the second time. About 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I had seen her name on a guest list for an industry gala in the Gold Coast that Reed had dragged me to. I left early. I did not have the stomach for it yet. By year 2, I had heard that she had married Preston Hale. He was 44 to her 33. He drove a Porsche Cayenne. He had a penthouse in Streeterville and a weekend place in Lake Geneva. He was, by every external measure, the upgrade she had been shopping for. I processed this with the particular quiet grief of a man who has made peace with a wound but still feels the scar on cold mornings. I wished her nothing bad. I also wished her nothing particularly good. I simply removed her from my internal landscape and focused on what was in front of me. The morning I ran into her was a Saturday in March. I had been in back-to-back board meetings the entire week leading up to it, and I had finally taken a morning to myself. I was at the Whole Foods on South Michigan Avenue. Not the fancy one, the one I had been going to since before Vantage, since before any of this, because old habits are sturdy and I liked the parking. I was standing in the checkout line with a basket of groceries, coffee beans, Greek yogurt, the overpriced sourdough I had developed a weekend habit of buying, when I heard a laugh I recognized from somewhere deep in my nervous system. It was Celine's laugh, the bright, performative one she used when she wanted people nearby to know she was having a wonderful time. I turned. She was at the adjacent register with a man I recognized as Preston Hale from photographs. He was tall, silver-haired, wearing a cashmere coat that probably cost more than my first car. Celine was dressed in what I can only describe as expensive effortlessness, the kind of outfit that takes real money to make look casual. Her hair was longer than I remembered. She saw me at approximately the same moment I saw her. There was a half second where her face went carefully neutral, the professional composure reflex activating, and then she smiled. Not warmly, the way you smile at someone whose name you have to remind yourself of. Archer. She said my name the way people say it when they are slightly surprised and slightly disappointed by the encounter simultaneously. I didn't expect to see you here. I'm here most Saturdays, I said, which was true, and probably told her more than she needed to know. Preston extended his hand. His handshake was the firm, practiced kind you develop when you have shaken 1,000 hands at 1,000 events. Preston Hale. You two know each other? We were married, Celine said, with the casual precision of someone trimming something from a sentence. Archer is in, what is it now? Tech? Logistics technology, I said. Preston nodded with the polite disinterest of a man who has categorized you and moved on before the sentence is finished. Celine tilted her head. There was something in her expression, a calculation, a small internal ranking, and then she said it. She said the thing. Preston's just been named to the Illinois Business Leadership Council. He's keynoting their spring event at the Waldorf. She paused, and I watched the corners of her mouth pull into something that was almost a smile. It's such meaningful work. Not everyone gets to operate at that level. Another pause. A beat. What about you? Are you still at that same company in Schaumburg? I had not worked in Schaumburg in 7 years. No, I said. I'm not. Oh, did that not work out? There was nothing overtly cruel in her voice. She had always been better at cruelty than that. She kept it perfectly calibrated. Just enough edge to draw blood, just dull enough to deny. I started my own company, I said. We're based downtown now. Preston gave a brief, encouraging nod, the kind men give to younger men who say things like, I started my own company, the nod that means good for you, that must keep you busy. Celine looked at me for a moment, assessing. Oh, like a startup? That's brave. It's a tough market for small businesses. She said small businesses the way she had once said quaint. It's done all right, I said. I'm sure it has. She picked up her shopping bag from the belt. What's the name of it? Maybe Preston knows someone who could be useful to you. He knows everyone in this city, honestly, don't you? She touched his arm. Preston smiled the smile of a man who did not disagree with this assessment. Vantage, I said. Neither of them reacted to the name. That told me everything. They didn't know it. Or rather, they weren't in logistics, so the name meant nothing to them yet. That was fine. Celine tucked her bag against her arm and gave me the final smile, the goodbye smile, the one that said this conversation has reached the end of its useful life. Well, good luck with everything, Archer. It was nice running into you. She started walking, and I don't know where it came from, whether it was 4 years of patience or 4 years of proof that I no longer needed anything from her, but I said the words before I had fully decided to say them. Celine, she turned. You said you'd love to see my workplace. Come see it. She laughed. It was a small laugh, a surprised, condescending little sound. I appreciate the offer. I'm serious. Monday morning, come to my office. Bring Preston if you want. I'd love to show you around. She looked at Preston. A private exchange passed between them. The kind couples develop as shorthand for what do we do with this. Preston shrugged slightly, the way men shrug when they find something charming in its harmlessness. Okay, Celine said. Monday morning, sure. I gave her the address. I watched her put it in her phone. I watched her glance at it once, tilt her head in the mild puzzlement of a woman who recognizes a building she has walked past before, and say nothing. I picked up my sourdough and walked to my car. That Sunday, I called Danielle. Monday morning, I said. I'm having guests in the office, my ex-wife and her husband. There was a pause. Danielle had worked with me for 3 years. She knew everything about Vantage that I knew, and she also knew most things about me that I had not explicitly told her, because she was that kind of assistant. Do you need anything specific set up? The 31st floor conference room, I said. Full setup, the panoramic view, and I want the lobby board updated with the Q1 numbers before they arrive. Another pause. The lobby board meaning the one with the company valuation? That one. Got it, Danielle said. Should I clear your morning? No. I'll take my normal 8 a.m. call. Have them wait in reception until I'm done. I could hear the quality of her silence. Understood. Danielle. Yes? Make sure the coffee is good. They arrived at 9:40 a.m. I know this because Danielle texted me at 9:41. They're here. She's wearing sunglasses indoors. I finished my 8 a.m. call at 8:53, spent 20 minutes on emails, and took the elevator down at 9:50. Our lobby is not ostentatious. Reed and I made a deliberate decision when we designed the space not to do the thing tech companies do with neon colors and ping-pong tables and exposed ductwork that's supposed to signal creativity. The Vantage lobby is clean, quiet, and serious. White marble floors. A reception desk in brushed steel. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. And on the wall to the right of the elevator bank, a backlit display that shows our real-time company metrics. Freight volume, active contracts, network performance, and at the top, in clean sans serif font, the current company valuation, $2.4 billion. I saw Celine register it the moment I stepped out of the elevator. She was sitting in one of the reception chairs with her sunglasses pushed up on her head, and her eyes were on that board, and her face was doing something I had never quite seen it do before. A recalibration, a reset. The expression of a person who has just walked into a room and discovered that the furniture is arranged very differently than they expected. Preston was standing near the window. He turned when he heard the elevator, and unlike Celine, whose composure recovered quickly, she was always fast, his face stayed open for a moment. Reading, processing. Archer, he said. This is your office. This is our lobby, I said. Good to see you both. Thanks for coming. I shook his hand. I nodded to Celine. She was watching me with an expression I could not fully decode, something between careful and exposed. Vantage, Preston said, as though hearing the name for the first time with new ears. I've heard the name. Supply chain optimization? Freight and logistics intelligence. We work with about 14% of North American cold chain volume currently. I said it the same way I would have said it to any investor or potential partner. Calmly, factually, as though the number were an ordinary number and not the result of 4 years of everything I had. Preston was quiet for a moment. I follow the freight sector. I knew Vantage had raised a Series B last year. That was you? That was us. Reed Caldwell and I run it together. He's our COO. I gestured toward the conference room hallway. Come on up, I'll show you around. We took the elevator to 31. I watched Celine the whole ride up. She was looking at the elevator buttons. Her jaw was set in that particular way it got when she was managing a response. The way I had learned to recognize in the 3rd year of our marriage, when we started having the conversations that preceded the ending. She was not going to cry. Celine did not cry in front of people. But there was a tension around her eyes that told me the information was landing. The conference room on 31 has full-length windows on 2 walls. On a clear March morning in Chicago, you can see all the way south to Hyde Park on one side and north past the Navy Pier Ferris wheel on the other. The table seats 20. The wall opposite the windows is a live data display. Vantage's network activity in real time. Freight nodes lighting up across the country like a nervous system. I watched Preston walk straight to the window. I watched him look out at the city and then back at the room. This is quite an operation, he said, and the tone had shifted. Not condescending, not politely dismissive. The tone of a man who has recalibrated. We've been fortunate, I said. The market needed this, and we got there at the right time. Celine had stopped near the data wall. She was reading the display. Contracts active, revenue run rate, network coverage. The numbers were large and they were real, and she was reading them with the focused expression of someone who does not want to ask the question they are about to ask. She asked it anyway. How long has Vantage been operating? 4 years and 3 months, I said. She looked at me. You started this right after. Right after, yes. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of things neither of us was going to say in front of Preston, in front of the data wall, in the 31st floor conference room of a company worth $2.4 billion that I had built in the 4 years since she sat across from me at our kitchen table and told me she wanted out. Danielle brought coffee. She set it on the table without looking at Celine, which told me she knew exactly who Celine was and had made her own quiet assessment. Preston sat down. He was thoughtful in a way I had not expected from the parking lot impression of him, genuinely engaged, asking smart questions about our technology and our market position and our Series B terms. He was a businessman. He recognized another businessman. The condescension was gone. In its place was something closer to respect, and I accepted it without making it mean more than it was. Celine was quiet for most of the conversation. She drank her coffee. She watched me answer Preston's questions. Once, when I said something about the Houston contract that had changed our trajectory, I saw something move across her face. A recognition, maybe, of the version of me she had decided wasn't enough. I did not take satisfaction in it the way I had imagined I might. Standing in that conference room, I felt mostly just clear. The way you feel when something you have carried for a long time is finally, fully, set down. After about 45 minutes, Reed came by the conference room to say hello. Reed Caldwell, who had been my friend for 12 years and my business partner for 4, walked in with his coffee mug and his calm, deliberate manner and shook Preston's hand and said, "Good to meet you. Archer told me you'd be coming by," which was not entirely true, but was gracious. Celine said very quietly, "You've built something real here." She was speaking to me, not Reed. She was speaking to me the way you speak to someone when you are recalculating, when the numbers are not adding up the way you expected, and you are trying to find the right words for an equation that no longer has a clean answer. "We have," I said. "Reed and I both did." "You seem happy," she said. And there was something genuine in it, I think. Something that cost her a little to say. "I am," I said. And that was genuine too. She nodded, small and precise. The nod of a woman who is absorbing something that cannot be changed. They left at 11:15. Preston shook my hand at the lobby and said he wanted to connect about potential partnerships. His real estate development work sometimes intersected with freight and cold storage, and he thought there might be a conversation worth having. He gave me his direct line. I gave him mine. Celine stood near the elevator. She had her sunglasses back in her hand, turning them slowly, the same way she used to turn her wedding ring when she was nervous. She looked at me for a moment and started to say something, then seemed to decide against it. "Thank you for the tour," she said finally. "Any time," I said. I watched the elevator doors close. Danielle appeared at my elbow approximately 30 seconds later with a stack of messages and her iPad. "Your 11:30 is on for the call. Reed wants to know if you want to grab lunch after." "Tell Reed yes." "And Danielle?" "Yes." "You can put the article back up if you want." She looked at me for a moment. "The journal piece?" "If you want to," I said. She smiled, the small, contained smile of a woman who had been waiting 3 years to say "I told you so," and was too professional to say it. "I'll think about it," she said, which meant yes. I had lunch with Reed at a diner on West Lake Street that we had been going to since the co-working space days, the kind of diner where the coffee comes in a white mug and costs $2. "How'd it go?" Reed asked. "Fine," I said. "Interesting." "She know before she walked in?" "No." Reed nodded, stirring his coffee. "How do you feel?" I thought about it honestly. "Good. Not the way I thought I would. Just good." "That's probably better," he said. We ate our lunch. We talked about the Houston contract extension and a new hire for the engineering team. We talked about whether the Cubs had any real shot this season, which we always talked about and never resolved. On the walk back to the office, we passed the building, the steel letters above the entrance. Vantage. I had walked past this entrance thousands of times. It had stopped registering the way familiar things do. You stop seeing them because they are simply part of the landscape of your life. But that afternoon I looked up. 4 years ago I was eating cereal in a Logan Square apartment telling my mother I was fine. 4 years ago I had $19,000 and a radiator that clanged. Now my name was on a building, and not literally, but in every way that mattered. Every decision, every late night. Every moment I chose the next right thing over the easier wrong one. It was all in there. Reed had stopped beside me. "She thought she was coming to see a small business," I said. "She did," Reed agreed. "And instead she saw 2.4 billion, Reed said, with her husband asking for your card." I laughed. It came out easy and real, and I let it. The thing about building something from the floor up is that you don't do it to prove anything to anyone in particular, Or at least, that can't be the reason, because the reason has to be large enough to sustain you on the days when nobody is watching and nobody is impressed, and the work is just the work. You do it because you have to. Because the alternative, staying small, staying safe, staying where the people who dismissed you needed you to stay, is a kind of slow suffocation that people mistake for comfort. Celine needed me to be a certain version of Archer. The version that was grounded and predictable and would not surprise her. The version that was safe. What she did not understand, and what I did not fully understand until much later, is that the groundedness was real. It just turned out to be the kind that doesn't stay still. The kind that holds while you build. My mother called me that evening. She had a radar, as I said. "How was your week?" she asked. "Good," I said. "Long. Something got resolved." She was quiet in the way she gets when she's deciding whether to ask the follow-up question. She decided against it, which told me she already knew more than she was saying. "Your father and I are proud of you," she said. "Not of the company, of you." "I know," I said. "I know that." I heard from Preston Hale's office 2 weeks later. His assistant called to set up a preliminary conversation about a cold storage development project in the southern suburbs. It became a $22 million contract. We shook hands on it in a conference room in Streeterville. Celine was not at that meeting. I did not expect her to be. But I thought about her briefly, standing at the window of that conference room with the city laid out below us, signing documents that had her husband's signature already on them. I thought, you always said you wanted to operate at that level. This is the ultimate lesson in self-worth. Celine tried to label Archer as quaint and small because she needed him to be a failure to justify leaving him. She didn't realize that while she was chasing a richer lifestyle, Archer was busy building a $2.4 billion empire. Archer didn't need to argue in the grocery store. He knew that the best revenge is living well and letting them see it on your terms. When Celine walked into that glass tower, she didn't just see a company. She saw the massive mistake she made. The takeaway? Don't waste your breath explaining your value to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Build your empire in silence, and let the steel letters on the building do the talking. Archer didn't just win, he outgrew the entire conversation.